There it goes. I am resident of college for YouTube, Joel Saints, joined by my buddy Mark Gillman. Mark, how are you, man?
Good to see you. Always great to be back.
We're here to talk 1795 from Dark Shadows, the Barnabas Collins arc. I want to ask you a lot of questions, though, about sort of prior to them going back to 1795, because they set this up pretty interestingly.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of the death of Dave Woodard?
It was necessary, but it was kind of surprising to me that, I mean, it wasn't surprising that Barnabas wanted this done,
Right.
but how far Julia was willing to go to protect Barnabas' secret.
Right. I sort of wonder, like, to me, this here is where is where they've had to have decided they're going back.
Yeah.
Because if you're killing Barnabas, Woodard's making the call. He's connecting to the sheriff. He's not calling. He does call the sheriff, but there's no one there. Well, can you have the sheriff call me back? And he never reaches him. If they were killing Barnabas, he would have reached the sheriff. So
Yeah.
when they make the conscious decision, to me, to kill Woodard, this is where they've decided, okay, we're going back in time.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta believe they had made that decision by that point, because because let's face it, the first person Barnabas kills was Jason McGuire, and no one gave a shit about Jason McGuire.
No, that was very, very satisfying.
I was talking. Me and you were talking about this before with Jason. Like, Jason was the odd man out at that point. It's like, who else? The only person you can kill at that point in time is Jason McGuire.
Yeah, and it was so satisfying and so nice it happened.
It was too. I gotta give Dennis Patrick a lot of credit for just playing him for playing that Despicable Hill, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you love to hate him, but he was so good at it.
He was. He was. I really. I know we both loved him as Sheriff George Patterson in the House of Dark Shadows because it was just great to see him play something different. I know he played Paul Stoddard in the series, but and I'm getting off on a tangent. Please don't mind me.
No,
Nothing has changed on this channel at all.
I would want another way.
And that's the thing too with Woodard's death. I agree with you. It's not so much just about Woodard's death. It's about how far will Julia go, you know? And I think that's the decision here too, is it's about, okay, Julia has to become a baby face now, to a degree. Yeah. Enough of a baby face that you're gonna force an action to happen. And I gotta admit, she does not. Some people, for those who have never watched Dark Shadows, spoiler alert: Julia Hoffman does not actually kill Dave Woodard.
Right.
And really, I truly believe, and I'm gonna get your thoughts on this too. I truly believe she could convince Woodard not to turn the evidence over. You know.
Yeah, and it was such a tense moment, because here you have Julia, and she and Woodard had been friends for a long time. So they were very close friends. He was the one that recommended her to the Collins family. Yeah. And, I mean, you've got this point where Dr. Woodard he's not wrong in wanting to do the right thing to stop all these other attacks. He's isolated the source, and he's not wrong in what he's wanting to do, but it's like, you don't want that to happen. You want to see Barnabas survive. You want him to get cured. And it's just so much tension at that moment. And, is Julia really going to turn on her longtime friend for Barnabas that, for the sake of, we know that she loves him and that she has feelings for him, but just for the sake of this experiment, how far is she willing to go to turn on Dr. Woodard like that, a long time trusted friend?
you and I have talked a lot of horror on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to compare it to a moment that we do not like Freddy's Revenge. Okay?
Right.
And I think the reason is because the protagonist, once the protagonist is being used by Freddy, and he kills one person and then two, there's no coming back.
No.
And that's sort of where I segue to Julia. If Julia had stuck Woodard with that needle and not Barnabas, there's no getting her back.
Right.
Having Fred do that job, which he it looked like Jonathan was having a good time, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love the fact that he sticks Woodard with the needle, and it's not Hoffman, because if you have Julia do this, there's just you're not baby facing her at all.
Right.
You know,
I think that would have crossed a line with her where she would have been pretty irredeemable.
Yeah, and I think too what happens after that too. You know, her seeing Sarah, and one of the episode 361 is really telling, because though we have not seen Angelique yet up until that point, because we're not going to see Angelique till we go back. But to me, we hear her first. In 361, you hear a woman weeping, but then you hear a wicked woman laughing. Now, I want to own something right up front with this. To those who are going to watch this, that is not Laura Parker's laugh. That is not Laura Parker laughing.
Right.
But it is the character of Angelique.
I agree.
You know, I don't think they had her cast yet. That's
Probably
what I got.
Probably.
You know, I gotta. That would be a great question. I don't know if I'll ever get her on this channel, but if somebody's out there listening to this, and if you get her on your channel, please ask her, was she cast prior to episode 361? Mm-hmm. I don't think so. You know, I'm going to say not, but maybe. You know, because if she was, would I be shocked that they didn't use her? Yes.
Yeah. Dan was pretty famous for casting on the fly.
Yeah, he was. By the way, who would you cast as Caleb if they would have ever pulled out Caleb Sayre Collins? Who would you have cast?
In the 1960s?
Yes, sir.
James Storm.
Nice. Me and Patrick were talking about this when we did the oh God, what video was it? It was it was for Caleb Sayre Collins, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I said Peter Fonda, because and he's like, yeah, Peter would have been in Dan's wheelhouse, and I said, there you go. But yeah, James Storm would have been. I'll tell you, before they had Judah Zachary, before they did that whole Judah Zachary, I thought that's where they were going with the ghost at first, like it was Caleb, because we heard about him. I know that had been so long ago, right up until that point.
Right.
You know? For those who don't know, they mentioned Caleb when Anthony George is playing Burke Devlin by this point. And he's wanting to marry Victoria, but he wants to buy the Seaview house. And it's really weird. There's this weird clause that nobody, including the Collinses, can own that house until 1972. And that's how weird that is. And it's like, this dude did not trust nobody.
Yeah. And I've never really been much into the Big Finish, Dark Shadows audio dramas. I joined Audible a few months ago, and I saw that there were several of them on there, and I get like one free credit a month. So I got the one. It came out for the 50th anniversary. I think it was called Blood and Fire, and it had Joanna Going as the voice of Josette.
Cool.
And Um, it tells the story of the Collins family in the middle of the 1700s, and Caleb Collins is a featured character in it. So it was a nice background that tied up a lot of loose ends. But yeah, Caleb was not right. There was
Have
something very off about that guy.
Have you ever seen Wyatt Earp, the movie with Kevin Costner?
I have not. I know
Jo-
which movie you're talking about, but I haven't watched it.
Joanna Goins is the main character in that movie.
Hmm.
So if you ever go watch, I've watched it a bunch of times,
Hmm.
and that's the next one, because me and Butch are going to be doing the Tombstone and Wyatt Earp,
Uh-huh.
and pretty soon, but because both movies were competing for each other, like to come out. Like
Hmm.
both movies were jockeying for position because both was about the story of Wyatt Earp. Basically, it's both movies are about the story of Tombstone, but Wyatt Earp's more about the complete history of Wyatt Earp
Uh-huh.
and what
Right.
happened. And Tombstone is more like the end of his life. It's
Hmm.
more the end of his career, or so to speak. And Joanna Goins plays the one Jewish girl who Wyatt Earp ends up marrying for the rest of his life,
Hmm.
and she's in the movie. Really, really good performance. For the moment she's on screen, she does a great performance. Um, but definitely go check it out. Highly recommend it. You'll enjoy the hell out of it.
Will do.
Um, but it for 1795,
Hmm.
they really do a great job building this up in just such a short time. It feels like, because
Yeah.
if you're going by, you and I are both going off the death of Dave Woodard. If
Right.
you're going from there, it's a short distance to where they have to go back.
Hmm.
Because, and really, our favorite protagonist, Victoria Winters,
Hmm.
they're going to use at that point in time, the most over protagonist in Dark Shadows history, Victoria Winters.
Hmm.
They're going to use her to get Barnabas over. And they're right for doing it,
Yeah,
you know?
I agree. I'm glad that it was her that they chose to go back rather than anyone else in the family.
And really, I know that, like, I know because I've had to explain this to other people who haven't watched DS. I know that they did not plan 1795. You know what I mean? Because that's what's always been said. This wasn't planned. But it does, when you go back to the beginning, because you and I have watched this from the beginning, it sort of feels like it was subconsciously, at least. Because Victoria says something at the beginning, and I know you know it. She goes, I feel like when they go to do the seance to like contact Josette's ghost for the first time, she says, I fear something's going to happen to me. Really, a ghost possessing you is not a big deal. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's not nothing, but that's not really something tragically really happening to you or even bad, or it's a possession, you know?
Yeah.
So I always feel that was a hint of 1795.
Yeah, especially like at the costume party when they went into the seance and she went back as Josette, reliving the moment of her death when someone was chasing her and Barnabas freaked out. That was such a good moment.
Like, Barnabas is about to get nailed here.
Yeah, he almost gave himself away.
It's creepy too. Like the whole uh, what is your favorite seance? The one they do at the old house?
I love that one, and I love the one where they did in the beginning episodes with Laura.
Yep, really, really well done too. Those are, do not sleep on the beginning episodes, folks. But
No, no, no.
it really, mine is the one they do for to contact the ghost of Sarah, but they
Mhm.
get Josette.
Yeah,
My God, I'm thinking, man, Barnabas is about to get caught red-handed here.
yeah.
It's when I first watched that, I'm like, it's over, it's
Hmm.
over, and then they're like, nope, not so fast.
Hmm. Yeah, I thought he was. I thought his cover was absolutely blown when
But I
Terry.
kept wait, I kept waiting because I believe Willie's still around at this point.
Yeah.
I kept waiting for Willie Loomis to come in with the gun. Just shoot somebody. Like,
I'm surprised it didn't.
like Barnabas is going to order Willie to commit murder, and everyone's just going to blame Willie anyway.
Exactly.
By the way, they're at the Collinsport Police Department at the shooting range. They have a picture of Willie Loomis. They really do, because
yeah.
the Collinsport Police Department needed to go to Haddonfield and teach Hawkins how to shoot.
Uh-huh.
Because listen, when you watch Willie Loomis get shot, and you know this, they do not miss him at all.
Oh no, he goes down fast.
It's like
really fast.
Like they literally have nothing better to do in that town than probably sit at the gun range and go, "Yep, bam, bam." Is there crime in this town? No, this is why we're here. We're bored.
Exactly.
It's like, well, you're pretty good at it. Yes, we are.
Yeah, we are.
It's like, oh god, but I do think with 1795, Julia's babyface turn is just as important prior to Barnabas's, because she's the one who says about the seance.
Yeah.
And when she does this, it's the biggest. Would you say it's the biggest middle finger she can give to Barnabas?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
She turned very, very defiant after Dave Woodard.
Yeah. And I really love the fact before this, you get the ghost. How awesome was Sarah Collins's ghost coming in to confront Barnabas?
Very awesome. That look that she gave him when they finally met face to face was like daggers. Like her eyes were like daggers. And you could see like the shame on her face and the disappointment in him. So, I mean, that it just, every time I see that scene, it just sends a chill down my back from the look that she gives him.
Yeah, it's just so well done, and it's the build up that they built up to that was really well done too.
Yeah,
but we'll get into that one another time. That one deserves a whole video.
Yeah, it does.
But so they have the seance, and Carolyn, for those who don't know, Carolyn has been working for Barnabas up until this point, and she's been enjoying the information she gets and the power she gets from it.
Oh yeah.
So I love the fact that this is pre-Leviathan. This explains exactly why Carolyn married Jeff Hawks.
Yeah.
Because she enjoys being under the power of supernatural creatures. I mean, hey, and that was her own cousin. But she starts faking that she's Sarah, but then the real Sarah shows up and gets in Vicky's body, and I love Jonathan Frid and Nancy Barrett's chemistry here, because she sort of looks at him and he's like, "Don't do it." Like, nope.
Right. Just stop. Yeah.
Yep. And it happens, and then boom, Vicky's gone, and it's like, oh shit.
That was such a great moment, and like you can hear Carolyn do a big, like really deep gasp, and that was my same reaction when I saw that the first time, just like, and you see Phyllis Wicks sitting there, and Victoria's gone.
I was at home as a teenager by myself, and thank God nobody was home with me, because I was like, motherfucker. What was that? Yeah. What? But it's so shocking.
Travel.
Right? It's so shocking, right?
It is. And I've never seen anything replicate that since then.
That's what makes the original so great. You can go back and watch these, and it's everything you've seen up until this point still shocks you. Like when I rewatched 1995, James Storm still shocks the shit out of me.
Yeah.
He's just that good.
Yeah.
But I mean, he literally steals 1995 from everybody.
Yeah.
And he doesn't say anything. He mouths. It's weird because I was pointing this out in my video of Patrick and Gordon. He mouths stuff, but he doesn't actually say words.
Right.
And it's like, it's so eerie.
Right. It is. Because you don't know what he's saying and what he wants. But I mean, the way they did his makeup and that scowl that James Storm can do, he he was frightening. Very.
Yeah, he's bone chilling. I mean,
Yeah.
James Storm did not. There are people who, if you put a mask on him, like a
Mhm.
but James Storm did not need a mask. Like, he
No.
could be a serial killer without a mask
Yeah.
and sell it.
Yeah.
But with this, Vicky goes back. She has the history book in hand. They froze in time in the 60s, and she's looking at the old house like it's all brand new, sparkly. It's not
Mhm.
run down. At what moment? I gotta ask you this question because it's good. At what moment did you realize how fucked Vicky was?
I think immediately. I think immediately because I mean, and it's just like it gives you. It's like it really throws you for a loop because you've heard um, in all these episodes that um, Barnabas and Victoria always romanticize the past,
Yep.
and that all the men back in the past were romantics, that they were very passionate towards women, and she had this very, very um, like rose-colored view of the past. And then once she's there, almost instantly, she's terrified, and she has every reason to be that we're going to find out as we go along. It's nothing like she thought that it was going to be.
Yeah, I'll tell you who sets this up really great long before they do the seance is Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, her and Barnabas have been romanticizing about Tess. Vicky has been researching the past,
Mhm.
looking into it. Because, again, as we know, Vicky has no past of her own.
Right.
That's why she loves it. But as Elizabeth tells her, you're going to find out it's not as romantic as you think. It's dangerous. It was
Mhm.
dangerous. And it's like everything Joan Bennett's character said was exactly right.
Yeah.
And as like you said, as we're about to find out, Vicky goes up to the door, and here's Barn.
Hmm.
he's all he's dressed in the 1795 clothes. Barnabas, and he's like, dude, I don't know you. How do you know my name?
Right. Right.
Oh, Fred sells this so. This is so cool of how Fred does this. He's so calm. He's not like flirting with her. He's being kind to her.
Uh-huh.
This was so because up until this point, for those who have never watched Dark Shadows, Barnabas up at this point was not the Barnabas we just all saw in the '60s was not a nice person.
No. No.
So how different was this to you?
It was like, I mean, Barnabas had traces of humanity, but at the same time, for the most part, Barnabas was a monster. He
Yeah.
was very cold and very cruel when he came back in the 60s. And it was almost like a Jekyll and Hyde thing. It's just like, what happened to this guy? I mean, a lot of times their environment and things we go through shape us. And I was like, he's very kind. He seems like a very normal, kind person. Hold on.
Bless
Okay,
you.
I'm back again. Sorry. Um, but it's just like, what was it about this vampire curse that, completely stripped away all of his humanity? Because he seems like a very kind, elegant, well spoken gentleman here, at the first glance. So he's a very, very different person.
Yeah, and I don't think this is I don't think this is like a different Barnabas. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
this is, again, we're getting an origin story. So here's
Yeah,
Barnabas. He's so nice. He's so kind. And like you said, I agree with you. It's sort of like Jekyll and Hyde. And you're almost, at first, you're sort of waiting for the Hyde. Like,
yeah,
but then you're quickly realizing that's not happening here
right,
too. And I think the best realization too is the other characters, like Sarah. First, like when you see Sarah, I think that's your sort of realization. Okay, this is not, Hyde ain't coming right now,
right,
you
right.
know. And I think that was so well done too by them to have Sarah come right out. When Vicky's standing there, and she's got this nice dress on, and it's like she's like, and it's Sarah who's like, that's my governess.
Right.
Like, good news, Victoria, you still get to be the governess.
That's exactly right.
It's not, you ain't gonna like where it ends up, but you're
No,
still.
no, she won't.
By the way, Reverend Trask can go straight to hell.
Yeah, and I believe he did.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
he did.
Yes, sir. Yes, he did. Just amazing, amazing. But yeah, I think it's so well done. What did you think of little Sarah coming out?
I just thought she was, just every bit of as adorable as everything else. But she was just, you could tell just right away that she was, the very heart and soul of innocence. Like Barnabas said, that she was. You could definitely see that she was a moral compass for Barnabas even then. I got that impression anyway.
Yep. It's right. It's a right away impression too. You know what I mean? When you see them, the first time when you see them together, like when you first see Sarah, you get the sense of, okay, everything Barnabas said was true.
Yeah.
Barnabas, Jonathan Fritz said in an interview, Barnabas was a liar, but there's things Barnabas didn't lie about. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
There are times, like you said, he had moments of humanity, but like you said too, he was a monster in the '60s. With this, there's no monster because he's not a vampire yet, and he's out during the day. And
Right.
when Vicky goes in, and she's like, Mrs. Stoddard.
Right.
And
Right. It's kind of almost like the Wizard of Oz, when she goes back.
do you think that's sort of what they're? I don't think they're copying and pasting the Wizard of Oz, but do you think that's sort of the inspiration here in a way?
I think so, kind of a wink and a nod to it, because I mean they did follow a lot of classics, and I think this was kind of like a Wizard of Oz moment, but in a much, much bigger original story.
Right. To be fair, we're not saying 1795 is copying the Wizard of Oz.
Oh
It's not.
no, no, no,
It's
no.
not. By no means, it's not. First of all, there's no goddamn ruby slippers. Okay. Okay. Number two. Number two. The Wicked Witch of the West compared to Angelique is got nothing. Got
No,
nothing. Okay.
no. I always told people that Angelique was the Wicked Witch of the North, South, East, and West. She was like, the ultimate Wicked Witch.
She really wants to. And this is what happens when you have sex with an island girl and you leave her ass. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what happens. But I love Joan Bennett as Naomi. How amazing was she, right?
Oh, so amazing. Very, very just classy in every way.
Yeah. I really like the fact too that we finally get to see Joel Carruthers play something other than,
Good
Joe.
guy.
Right. And here's something I wanted to ask you too. Do you think that, because to me, Nathan's not a heel when Barnabas is alive, right? He's actually trying to help Vicky of his own accord. Like even before Barnabas says anything to him, because he tells her, "I'll get you a horse, and you need to get out of here." When he hears about Trask is gonna come here, and Vicky's like, "No, I'm not afraid." And So when Barnabas becomes a vampire, I know I'm jumping around, so I apologize.
Okay.
But do you think that because Angelique puts a curse on him, she says anyone you love will die. Will die. To me, Nathan was like a brother to Barnabas.
Hmm.
You know, do you think that because of the? And then again, I'm not taking anything from Nathan as a heel or
Yeah.
trying to, but do you think Nathan sort of falls under that category with the curse?
Um, my personal opinion, no,
Okay.
because think I think Nathan was someone who kind of followed the money. And I
Yeah.
think that being close to the Collins family, he knew there was money to be had there. And he was trying to get married into it. And he was, quite crass with Vicky to begin with. But I don't know. It could be. It could possibly be. I never thought of that before, though.
It's really weird too. You know what I mean? Like he does. He's very. To be fair to the character, he is a womanizer. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh, yeah.
you know. What did you think of Anthony George's Jeremiah Collins?
I thought he was good. I thought he was really good as Jeremiah because as Burke, this was in like when you had the courtship of Victoria, there was a love triangle there, and I was always Team Barnabas and
Yeah.
Victoria, and it was kind of nice seeing Anthony George playing, I guess, someone that wasn't in competition with Barnabas, um, and I thought he seemed to fit that personality well, like as just a nice uncle type person and kind of a mentor and friend to Barnabas.
You and my wife are the same. She's like, they just need to push Burke off Widow's Hill. That way Barnabas and Vicky could get together. And I looked at my wife when she said that. I'm like, what? I'm like, have you been talking to Mark Gillman?
Yeah.
She's like, who? I'm like, because she's like, no, I just don't. She goes, come on, really? She's like, Victoria Devlin, it just doesn't fit.
Mhm.
I'm
I
like,
got.
and I'm like, all right, yeah, I could see that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I love the fact that Jeremiah, Anthony George's, he does not like. He's in no real interest. He has no interest of marrying anyone really. He's not seeking a bride. Hell, he's not seeking a woman.
No.
And I love Joshua. What did you think of Lewis Edmonds as Joshua Collins?
Oh, I think he was great. Now, of all the characters I've seen, I thought that Joshua was the best character that he ever played.
Yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
I think Lewis Joshua is my favorite Lewis Edmonds character that
Hmm.
he played. He's really good.
Hmm.
Simply not just because he's sort of antagonistic, and he is.
Oh,
He's a to put it nicely, he's a dick.
yeah.
But
You took the words right out of my mouth. He
for
is.
those who don't know, you can swear on this channel. Just it's really crazy that he's literally Joshua Collins. He's not only he's looking at Barnabas and Josette like, okay, I got that in the bag. That's gonna happen, right? But he's not only trying to get one marriage going, he's trying to arrange another. He's like,
Yeah.
he looks at his brother. You'll marry Millicent.
Yeah.
I was like, I ain't married. Yeah, he doesn't say this. He's like, I ain't marrying nobody. But he's like, I'm not marrying Millicent.
Right. Right. It's because he was wanting to join wealthy families and increase his own wealth.
Yeah, it was really interesting, right?
Hmm.
Like I wasn't. There are things like you aren't. There are a lot of things you don't expect of 1795, but to me, this was one of them.
Hmm.
Before we get a witch, or get Angelique, You have Joshua, who's like, he's trying to play matchmaker.
Yeah.
That's, to me, every time I go back and rewatch this, I'm like, it's still shocking that he's got his son getting married to a woman who, by the way, that's about money too.
Oh yeah.
For Joshua, this is all just business.
Yeah.
I agree with Gordon. It's all business.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
Barnabas does love Josette,
Right. I agree.
and Josette loves Barnabas. But here you got Joshua. He's looking. That's in the bag.
Right. Cha-ching.
Jeremiah, you marry Millicent. It's like he's like, nah, nah, nah.
Right.
It's really, it was just so shocking. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It was, and I think for Victoria to see this firsthand, how we talked about earlier, how she had romanticized relationships in this time, to see how they were arranged this way just for business purposes and wealth. That there was not really much love involved, but Barnabas was the rare exception.
Yeah, it's like when she hears when the wedding invitations get read. I mean, Victoria just hits the ground.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I've had enough.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good.
Right. Right.
I think that, to me, this is the first time you see Victoria sort of just tap out, like, okay, I'm ready to go home.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But in the same,
Yes.
but in the same sense, you don't blame her. It's
No. None
like
whatsoever.
even though they're using Victoria to get Barnabas over, Alexander Moltke Isles does not get enough credit during her 1795 run. I mean, she really just puts on a hell of a performance.
She does. And I wrote an essay on WordPress one time about how, I've watched the Vampire Curse, like the movie edition
Yeah,
edit 1795, which is fantastic, by the way. But when I watched the whole show of 1795, of how much this was also Victoria's story,
yeah.
not just Barnabas. I mean, she was a very important part of this.
I think that's I think that's the one thing where I pick on the Vampire Curse a bit on Tubi, and I know it was a MPI release. Is I get they did this for like the 2012 movie,
Mm-hmm.
but to me, I don't feel they needed to do this. But you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? I'm not saying they shouldn't have,
Mm-hmm.
because I think with the MP, with it, you're losing a lot of the importance of certain characters. Like, well, okay, Vicky's trial not being shown, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it just, there's things to me that I could never see anybody. And again, maybe this is just, me being a homer of the whole arc, but I'll plead guilty to that. But so, Mark's got the gavel ready now.
No, no, not at all.
No,
They're throwing you in. They're throwing me too.
right? It's so crazy, right? I love the fact that the one thing I will say about it is I do think it is important to tell the story of Barnabas and Angelique. It is. But I don't feel you needed to just cut the entire arc into pieces to tell this.
Right.
You know what I mean? I feel you could have just, if you said we're just releasing the entire 1795 arc on MPI, people would have bought it
Yeah.
because it's a great story.
Yes, it is.
So I just don't see the sense of them. I didn't see the importance of them cutting this the way they did.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's face it, the movie that we've talked about the movie.
Uh-huh.
The movie has nothing to do with the series.
No.
Like, and people are gonna say, "Well, it's Angelique and Barnabas." Yes, but not the same way.
Right.
So I don't. It made no sense to me. MPI doing what they did.
Mm-hmm.
You know that's what I'll say about the Vampire Curse. Again, is it something I would recommend? I'd recommend the entire arc.
I think the Vampire Curse is a good would be a good entry point for someone that's maybe new to the series and they kind of want to know what Dark Shadows is about. I think that would like if they don't have time, like you tell somebody it's over 1,200 episodes, but
Right.
if you sit them down and they can watch this 2 hour and something movie edition of it, I think that would be a good gateway into the series.
I do think I agree with your point you're making, because if somebody goes, hey, how many episodes is Dark Shadows? And you go over 1,200 episodes, and people are just going to, their eyes are going to get as big as quarters.
Right.
But,
Right.
you know, but if you wanted to start, like, okay, go watch The Vampire Curse. Well, what is it? It's the Barnabas Collins origin story, but it's not the complete origin. It's not the whole story of 1795. It's just the story of how Barnabas became a vampire. There are
Yeah.
things missing from the Vampire Curse,
Mhm.
but the central story of how Barnabas became a vampire and what happened is still there.
Right.
I think that would be a fair explanation of it. Is it some? So I agree with you. It's something you could recommend to people,
Mhm.
but I think with the whole arc, the way the whole arc's done, it's so masterful. It's
Yeah.
such a master stroke of genius. It's like to cut it into that. It felt like it felt like we were in Silent Hill 2 and Pyramid Head was,
Yeah. Hmm.
you know. But so again, I'm glad you like defend it, because it makes me sort of not be mad at it as much as I was when I watched it on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because again, I appreciate the acting. I love the actors and what they did, and I still do think you get a good story with the Vampire Curse, because
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
you know what I mean, because you get Angelique turning Barnabas,
Mhm.
but I think there are moments too that the one moment I'm glad they did not cut was the House of Cards.
Yeah.
Like that being in there really, I love that they left that in there, because it is important, because that's how Barnabas sort of figures out by himself. But it really, the whole arc, what did you think of Abigail Collins?
Oh my gosh. The performance great.
Yep.
Um, I Okay, I'll just say I knew a lot of Abigail Collinses in real life. So, um, seeing her was cringy because I knew a lot of people like her and they were some of my least favorite people in life. So, but what Clarice Blackburn did was it was almost like, do you remember the Dana Carvey character, the church lady from Saturday Night Live?
No, I did not.
Okay. Okay. Well, he did a character called the church lady, and she was like this middle-aged lady that was always, telling people they were going to hell, but it was a really funny thing. And it was sort of like a horror version of the church lady.
Okay.
Um, she was, uh, she was very, very, um, I think she had a lot of power and influence over Joshua, and
Yeah.
she had trust of people because she was a churchgoer, and I think she had a lot more influence than you know people than just writing her off as a crazy old woman. I think because she used her place in the church, I think she had a certain bit of power, and I think she was the one responsible for contacting Trask, wasn't she?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Mark's right. She's the one who contacted Trask and got him to come to Collinwood at the time, because the old house is Collinwood at that time. It's the
right.
original one. But yeah, she's responsible. What did you, they got Fair David to come back to the series as Ben Stokes. What did you think?
Oh, Ben is probably I think it's Thayer David's best character And I would say I like him as much as I love Professor Stokes.
Right.
I love Ben, and there's just something simple and, you know, innocent about Ben that you can't help but love the guy. And even when um, Angelique puts the spell on him and controls what he does,
Yeah.
and he has his moments of revenge against Joshua. You know, that's enough for him. Once he gets his few moments of revenge, but then he starts saying, I didn't mind playing some tricks on them, and you doing some tricks and messing with them, but now you're pushing things too far, and
Yeah.
you're going too far, and I don't want to be a part of this.
My favorite sequence with Thayer David was when he's out in the woods with Angelique, and she says about turning them into something. He's like, "Why don't you turn them into a jackass? I could take a
Yeah.
jackass out to the woods." And she's like, even Angelique's like, "Ben."
Yeah.
It's so good because you're like, "No, wait
Well,
a minute." You're like, "Wait a minute, I'm with Ben on this one." No,
yeah, he
you,
had it coming too.
you can do some magic, girl. Hey, hey.
It was great. It was great.
Laura Parker's reaction to it is great too. She's like, "Ben." No.
Yeah.
like, damn, I know I'm evil, but that's just
Level.
great, right? She's probably thinking, "Nah, I can't do that because you'll be killing him."
Right. True.
like,
Very, very true.
I'm not ready to push it quite that far yet.
Right.
Nah. But it was really great to it's such a funny sort of sequence. It's one of the more funnier moments of 1795 because there aren't many,
Yeah.
but it's just such a cool moment. I do think with Ben Stokes and Barnabas, Thayer David and Jonathan Frid's chemistry was just so on.
I loved their friendship. It was
Right.
really good.
Like how important was it, do you think?
I think it was very important to showcase because, again, like we were talking about Barnabas, there wasn't a whole lot of humanity there, what we saw in the 1960s. So when you go back and you see that, Joshua was awful to Ben and just, treated him like a slave and would beat him, and talked to him horribly and
Yeah.
belittled him so much. And the fact that Barnabas just, instantly befriended the guy and was teaching him to read and write and trying to, make him into a normal person. Um, I mean, that just really shows a lot of what was lost in Barnabas that, we didn't get to see in the 60s. And I think Ben does a good job of, reinforcing that, what a great guy Barnabas was.
Yeah, I mean him. We'll come back to that because
Okay.
there's a lot to touch upon with Ben. But
Oh, yeah.
so Josette shows up finally. they, God, Catherine Lee Scott as Josette. It was just it. I'm gonna say this. This to me is one of the better characters she got to play.
Yeah.
You know, I love Maggie to death. I love Maggie Evans as a character, but Josette, you and I have talked about how where Maggie was not Josette.
Mm-hmm.
When Maggie says, "I am Maggie Evans," and it's one of those great moments. This here, it lets you know why Barnabas went after Maggie.
Yeah.
And but it also shows you that Josette really is not Maggie Evans.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's this elegant woman who is just class personified.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
She is so elegant when she walks in a room, and
Yeah.
I know she's not one, but she's almost like a princess.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. She carries herself like a princess.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, she carries herself like royalty.
Yeah.
like Mark said, like a princess. She carries herself like one. And it's really just Catherine Lee Scott sells it with her body language.
Mhm.
And it's just like, holy cow. Wow. I mean, she literally lights up a room.
Mm-hmm.
Like Barnabas, I think Barnabas says something to that effect, but
And it makes Barnabas the envy of everybody to get to, win the heart of this girl.
yep. And it's like, so you see that they're in love, and you know, Angelique, when they go into the room, Angelique, when her and Barnabas on, she kisses him. It's like, uh oh. What did you think of that?
Uh, that was something. I mean, and like when Angelique shown up, when she first appeared, um, and knocked on the door, and then it was storming, and the first thing you hear is when Sword Barnabas, and then Barnabas is like, Angelique, what? I mean, you could hear the shock in his voice, like, what are you doing here? And then,
Yeah,
when they had their kiss, he was, you could tell he was trying to resist, but there was just something about her that was just hard to say no to.
yeah. She Laura Parker is just so stunning and beautiful, and I mean,
Yeah.
she really embodied Angelique in every way. The eyes, she was not afraid to use her curves.
Hmm.
She wasn't afraid to seduce. And to me, people will say, they always say they want a femme fatale, but they want the femme fatale to kick ass. Here's a news flash. Come here, folks. The, a femme fatale is a villain.
Yeah.
And that's Angelique.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
She is a femme fatale, and a great one. I mean, just to say Laura Parker stealed 1795 is not an over. You can't state that one enough.
No.
She. I love how to everyone's face she's so nice. Like to everyone's face, she's so nice, right? But then when you get behind a closed door, the audience is seeing the real Angelique.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
how deliberate, like great deliberate storytelling do you think this was to sort of tell you, hey, there's more to this character?
It was good because, I mean, you could kind of tell from, which I knew Angelique was a witch beforehand, but still, you could tell that there was kind of a dark side to this girl.
Right.
That she wasn't just, another, like a former love interest. That this girl, there's something not right about this girl, and you could tell by the way that, and I hate to jump on board with what so many other people say, but Laura Parker's eyes, I've never seen anyone with eyes like hers before. And
No.
the things she does with her eyes and the emotions that she conveys when she's being friendly and she's being two-faced, with people and playing nice, she sells it. I mean, it's like it's easy to fall for. But then when she, like if she walks away and she turns a little towards the camera, and you see those eyes grow dark. I mean, get extremely dark, and she turns up the witchiness. Um, it's you can see it, that there's something sinister about to happen.
Yeah, that's the thing too. She, like you said, she sells. Like
Yeah,
there's a moment where she hugs Josette, and she gives this sinister smile, and she's
yeah,
got, it's just like, oh
that's
shit.
what you're talking about. Yeah,
I, I I did that. I did that as a gift on Twitter when Twitter became new Twitter. This is me embracing new Twitter.
yeah,
Like, I really don't like you.
right, right.
It's like, but it's so well done. I mean,
Yeah,
and the fact of really too, how sinister was she for setting up Victoria?
Very,
Yeah.
very. And ultimately, the 1795 story doesn't have a happy ending at all.
No, no.
No, it's not a happy ending for anyone. I mean, basically everybody loses. Um, Angelique sets up Victoria because he knows that Victoria is um, that she knows things about the future and knows about Barnabas, and she's trying to get involved and stop her and trying to help Josette to prevent her from dying. And Angelique, uses devices and ways to get Victoria out of the way
Yeah.
and to help Trask get her out of the way and have her tried as a witch.
Do you think, who do you think is sort of more the enabler here, like Abigail or Trask?
Um, Enabler, I would say, probably Abigail.
Yeah, I'm with you on that
I,
one.
I think that Abigail is, and I think that they knew how to play, how to manipulate Trask because he was someone that was like, to me, the worst kind of villain, where they can justify doing anything bad, anything wicked, and using religion as a way um, to say that what they're doing is okay.
Yeah.
And I think they knew how to really get him hyped up and thinking that there was a witch there among them. And, Angelique did everything she could, like using magic to set fire and causing Victoria to run out the door,
Yeah.
uh, right into the arms of Trask. So I think, I think Trask was a pretty bad villain.
He was. I
Yeah,
think what shocked me most too was with that is really realistically Trask is only investigating one person,
yeah,
and it's who. You're right. Abigail is more the enabler here because it's who Abigail's telling him to investigate. He him talking. Trask talking to Angelique and the other women in the house. It's just like he's just talking to them. He's not
yeah,
he's not hammering them the way he hammers Victoria, and that's all because of Abigail. Um, and really, it's really well done. Amazing job. Just, and I really like the fact that, to me, they had him dressed up like Solomon Kane.
yeah.
The legendary witch hunter. Now, if Solomon Kane would have showed up at that doorstep and not him, and Abigail would be like, "Oh, she's the witch," she'd have been pointing to Victoria. Let me tell you what happened. Solomon Kane would have pulled out his flintlock and just pointed it right at Angelique and went, "Bam! No, she's the witch, and she's dead now." that's what,
Exactly,
that's what would have happened.
exactly.
Oh God, great movie, by the way. If you guys haven't seen it, Solomon Kane.
Yeah,
James Porfer plays Solomon. Great job. Um, and really, it's not just to. I think too. By this time, with as hard as she's pushing, you have Joshua being a cat. So
yeah,
there's no, Barnabas. Barnabas isn't really challenging Abigail a lot either. Enough. He's more trying to figure out he's got so many things going on too, which is crazy. I love the fact that Sarah is sort of defending too, to a degree. She's like, no, I believe, you know, but my favorite part before Victoria gets arrested, before she goes up running out the house, is the fact that she has resorted to the fact of hiding in the old house. And it's like, Angelique's got something up her sleeve,
oh yeah, always,
you know.
always.
what did you think of after the turn after Victoria gets arrested, and Barnabas finally puts two and two together. Okay, she's the witch. Angelique, she hears Angelique casting a spell.
Uh-huh.
That's what causes it. What did you think?
I thought it was great, and I loved the moment when we and I'll go back to Ben Stokes when
Yeah.
Angelique put the spell on Ben that if he spoke her name, that he wouldn't be able to talk anymore. That he would lose his speech, and I loved that moment. That was one of the best, and I'm so glad it was left in the Vampire Curse edit when Barnabas said, "I've been teaching you to write, Ben." He said, "Write the initial of the witch, write her name, her initial in the dust with your finger." And you see him, it looks like he does a V for Victoria, but then he draws the line across A for Angelique, and confirmed everything.
Yeah, Fred lays this up beautifully.
Yeah,
He goes right V for Victoria, like he's goating Ben, and Ben's
yeah,
like no, 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 and like he's not saying no to writing, he's saying no to Victoria. That Victoria
yeah,
is not the witch, and
right.
that's Barnabas already knows this. He's sort of playing cat and mouse.
Yeah,
He wants, and I love it. It's so good, and this is where to me, Thayer David, it just is on when he puts the V and the A, and I love but my, after the curse, after Laura curses, Barnabas shoots Angelique because she's stuffing pins in
right.
Sarah's
So,
doll, trying to kill her, and he shoots her with a flintlock horribly. Yeah. But listen, Barnabas would not make it as a police officer. And listen, we strongly suspect that in 1975, 3 years before 1978, Barnabas made a trip to Haddonfield and showed Hawkins how to shoot, unfortunately.
right, right.
We strongly believe this.
Yeah,
But he gets her in the shoulder and she curses him. I mean, how how great are Laura Parker's eyes in this scene?
yeah. And the music build up, how it gets louder and louder, and it like the music swells and gets more intense, and just the way that she looks at him with her eyes. Yeah, I think Patrick said this once before years ago that she doesn't curse him with her lips, she curses him with those eyes.
Yep, and she
Yeah,
does.
yeah, you can easily see that.
Yeah, to me the curse is already set when she's looking at him.
Yeah,
She's just saying words at that point. So he hears her, so
yeah,
he hears her, and then when she collapses from the pain, I like how Barnabas is like all concerned, like Angelique, what?
yeah.
This I kid you not. This is the scene where I go back each time and I just want to like back pimp hand Barnabas, like go get that other flintlock and finish this. Finish this. Go,
Right.
like you have another flintlock in there that's loaded. Go get it.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, the bat crashes through the window and bites him on the neck. I actually love this effect here that they actually, you know, use the bat, boom, the glass. It's really well done.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So I love how Sarah David comes in and she's like, "Oh my God, she's killed you." He thinks Barnabas is dead. He looks at Angelique. I love the blood on the floor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, how much of this is just straight a horror movie moment,
Yeah.
almost, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Angelique, they all come to and they get Barnabas up into the room, and Angelique's trying to treat him, and they pull back the curtains, and the son, he's like, ah, ah.
Yep.
Barnabas is dying here.
Yeah.
to become a member of the undead, and Angelique knows it.
Yeah. And they just think because he's whining about a bat and seeing like visions of a giant bat, they think he's like delirious, like from the plague or something. But she knows what's going on.
Yeah, she's like, you could
Right.
you could see the panic and fear on.
Yeah. And she knows there's no way to go back and reverse what she did.
Yeah, she's trying to keep him alive as much as possible, but so many people's in her way.
Right.
It's like
Right.
it's like, girl, do you realize what you did here?
Yeah. And I think she did, and that's what scared her so much.
It did. I think that this is to me one of the there's other moments where Angelique gets scared, but this is one of the first moments you actually see her frightened to death.
Yeah.
Like you sort of you go from here's this evil witch, here's this evil woman. Well, now she realizes how bad she messed up.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a moment where you're going, see, you kept playing with that magic.
Exactly. And, the fact that she uses the words when she does, it's not enough that she curses him to be a vampire.
Yeah,
It's like you said earlier that she follows up with anyone who ever loves you will die.
yeah,
I mean, that is a cruel, cruel, horrible thing to add to the, on top of being cursed to be a vampire, and that, anyone that would ever fall in love with him would die.
yeah,
And I think she also knew that because she still loved him, at some point she was going to be a victim of him too.
yeah. She already knows she's the first
Yeah,
on the chopping block, pretty much. You
and
know,
right so.
right? So eh, to be clear, there is a difference between Philip. We haven't touched on Phyllis Wick too much. So
Hmm.
Phyllis Wick, who is in the present day,
Hmm.
Phyllis Wick's journey is not Victoria Winter's journey, right?
Right.
So there's two different journeys. How? Because do you think that what's his name? Oh God, Peter Bradford defended Phyllis Wick?
Um, Possibly because now it's been a while since I've seen those, but wasn't it like in like I guess Collinsport history that she was tried and hanged as a witch?
Yeah, that's what's. I think that's the thing too. Phyllis Wick. Mark's right. She does get tried and hanged as a witch, but the biggest difference with Phyllis is, keep in mind, Phyllis is actually from Boston. She actually is the actual governess that's supposed to come. So, with Victoria, I know I'm jumping around, so I apologize.
No, it's okay.
With Victoria, Victoria doesn't have that proof that she's from Boston and such. So
Right.
Phyllis would have that proof, is what I'm saying.
Right.
So, and that's the reason the guy who ends up being one of the judges won't defend Victoria, because she tells him the truth. But with Phyllis Wick, there's no reason that that judge wouldn't defend her. So this is where it gets strange for me, because okay, if Phyllis Wick had proof of who she was, you know, what was the tipping point against her that they honestly used to hang her?
Um, for me, I would think that, because regardless if it was Phyllis or Victoria in 1795, Angelique accomplished the same thing.
Yep.
The effects were the same. So I think that, like when we see Angelique return, when Ben is testifying and he thought that Angelique was dead after um, Barnabas strangles her when he first rises from the coffin, but she returns. I think at that point I'd say that was probably the point where they got Phyllis, um, you know, guilty for witchcraft.
I'm sort of wondering if Joshua, because of Barnabas's death, right? Because he doesn't know he's a vampire yet. Yeah, we'll get there. But with Phyllis, I sort of wonder if Joshua had talked to the judges privately and said, hey, she tried to kill my son, but he's okay, but you need to hang her.
Yeah,
And I'm sort of wondering if that was sort of a deciding factor.
it
Like,
could be.
you
It
know,
it could very well be because I mean, Joshua was someone in the beginning that was like completely obsessed with control.
yeah,
And this whole story, if you look at it through Joshua's eyes, is the story of him losing control of everything. He lost his whole family, he lost control of everything. So he was, you know, like probably very, very angry and beside himself and was just like, look, if this is what's going to stop, more things from happening, go ahead and hang her. I don't care.
yeah, I could see it too. That's the thing. Like, I think that there had to be some, because the reason I say this is because Barnabas even says this when we go back. Phyllis Wick was there when she wasn't taken to jail until his coffin was carried to the mausoleum. So she at least knew Barnabas died.
Yeah,
That's the big, and it's a huge difference because when Victoria's taken, she's
that's
taken prior to that, you know. And so I could see Joshua, burying his son, putting him in the mausoleum. And remember, I think basically it's the same lines. I think it's Joshua saying, we'll just say he went to England. But I think the biggest difference is Joshua had a private meeting with the judges, not Trask. I can't see him going that low ball sleaze,
oh no, uh-uh.
but I can see him going to the judges and influencing them,
Mhm.
like saying, "Hey, I need to have a private consult with you." Well, what's it about? It's about Phyllis, but
Yeah.
this needs to be private because I don't want it on record. And I could see that being given because the Collins has had a lot of power.
Mhm.
And I could see him saying, hey, you need to hang her before she does any more day. I agree with you. I think that could have happened, you know, and,
Right.
because listen, if somebody's got to get hung so people stop dying, Joshua's all for that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He doesn't care.
Yeah, he's cold. He's a cold man, but
Yes.
he's God. But so Barnabas dies. Angelique gets Ben. I'm gonna stake him. I'm thinking this was this is the moment every time I pause and I go make popcorn for.
Yeah.
Like I pause it, I put the popcorn in the microwave. Like, I'm gonna watch Barnabas choke the shit out of Angelique.
Yeah. Yeah. And I because as soon as the coffin started opening, Ben runs out and shuts her in, and she says, "Ben, where are you going?" He's like, "When he comes back to life, he'll settle you," and he's gone, and leaves her in there with him, and it was great. I loved that moment that he got some satisfaction against her.
Yeah. Ben runs. Yeah, Ben just like see you bye, and
Right.
it goes, and Barnabas just grabs her by the throat. He's choking her. Like, damn, dude.
Yep. Exactly. And he even said um, that I know why you wanted to stop me. It was because you said that whoever would love me would die. And he said, so you don't love me? And she said, no, I do. And he said, then by your own word, you're going to be the first victim of your own curse. And that was such a good moment when he was walking around the coffin and she was trying to back away and she couldn't get away from him.
Yeah, how heartbreaking is Sarah's death?
Oh, it was awful. I mean, I'm not joking. I Every time I see it, I tear up. I mean, I can't. It breaks my heart.
It's
I mean,
this.
it bothered me, but now that I'm a, stepdad, thinking of that being one of my kids, It's just it hits harder.
Yeah, it's one of the rough to me. It's the roughest scene in Dark Shadows history because even though you know Sarah's a ghost, the fact that you watch how it happens is
Yeah,
just all time sad. And really, what makes it sadder too is Barnabas hugging her,
yeah.
Jonathan Frid selling the pain, in his face, and
And her
just
last words, "I still love you, Barnabas." That's
yeah,
just oh that kills me every time.
yeah, and it's just like here's this girl. She just wanted to live a normal life,
Yeah,
and still loves her brother, and
yeah,
he's hugging her, and it's like, oh shit, like
yeah,
like if Angelique was still alive, Barnabas would go choke her some more.
yeah, yeah. And I think it's at that point, I mean, Angelique has done some horrible things, but I mean, even though she didn't directly kill Sarah, she was responsible for it. And I think at that point, when Sarah died because of Angelique,
Yeah,
that was a point of no return for her.
yeah, she's as responsible for Sarah's death as Michael Myers is responsible for Judith Margaret Myers' death. I mean,
Exactly.
she
Exactly.
she's a man. Angelique is just one cold cat. But
Yeah.
I think too, what shocks me too is that I love the death of Suki Forbes. It's
Yeah.
my favorite death in 1795, prior to
Mhm.
Trask.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's she's on the ground at the old house, and here's Nathan, Suki. I'm like, dude, she ain't answering you.
He's not.
And I love how they got this whole Collins Port Strangler thing going on. It's like,
Hmm.
you guys are in for a real rude awakening.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there were so many good side twists and so much stuff going on through this whole storyline. It was great.
Sir, how shot like how cool was the revenge plot against Trask?
Great.
Yeah,
I loved it when things started falling apart for him, and like when he had the dead prostitute in his bedroom and stuff, and then he started seeing the skeleton um, in the mirror. All that was great, but I think Barnabas walling him up um, and burying him alive was that was satisfying.
I remember when Jolie first watched Dark Shadows. I mean, she seemed like Jerry Lacey's character with the dead prostitute.
Yeah.
Reverend Trash. She looked at me and she goes, "I'm surprised that wasn't your brother all those years ago." I'm like, "Oh my god, stop it, stop it, stop it!" But it was just like crazy. But the fact that he goes that far, even Nathan's like, "Damn, dude, like,
Yeah.
what did you do?"
Yeah.
But justice was served. You literally have Trask bricked up in a wall.
Yeah.
It was creepy.
Yeah. It's like that Klingon proverb from Star Trek that revenge is a dish that's best served cold.
Yeah,
That was ice cold serving of revenge.
it really was. Well, whose was colder? Was Trask's death or Nathan's? You think?
I think Trask's,
Yeah,
because he was messing with him to make him freak out about his reputation and how he looked to other people, and to you know I guess turn the police's eye towards him, and making him feel like he needed to hide. And then he buried him alive to make him look like he was guilty.
yeah.
Like, I guess, like he skipped town and did these things and skipped town.
The fact that he bricks them up in the wall was just like, oh man, that's
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a horrible death.
that's Nathan got off easy compared to.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he did.
It's like even Nathan sort of causes the death of Naomi. What were your thoughts on that?
It was sad. There was a moment where as much as Joshua treated Naomi like a child and would like send her to her room and stuff like that. There was a moment after Barnabas died where you see them hugging onto each other and holding each other, and it was just a very, very touching moment. And for Naomi to go out like that, how she died by poison, um, it was sad. It was really, really sad.
I think it's disheartening because she couldn't believe her son was a killer. You
Yeah.
know, Nathan being a complete dick at this point.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and she goes up to the tower room. She's already drank the poison. And she just, she tells him and just her collapse. And it's like, and Joshua comes in, and then Joshua tells him it was Nathan. And that's when Barnabas is like, I've had enough of it.
Yeah.
Like, Nathan's guts to die.
Yeah. Yeah. He's
And,
got to.
and guess what? Nathan dies.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this ain't a spoiler alert, it's a newsflash alert. Like, Nathan
Yeah.
dies. Nathan dies. I love how they do this too. He's like he's in the one room, and he's got the crossbow, and he misses.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think?
I thought it was great too. I mean, and it was great how, Nathan knew that at that moment he was screwed. I mean, there was nothing that he could do, and you could just see it, and he was, there was no way out.
So by this time, the trial's all but over. They're gonna hang Vicky. How, did you, when you first watched this, did you think, man, they're gonna literally kill off Victoria Winters?
I didn't know what they were going to do.
Yeah.
I was hoping that somehow she would come back, but I just I didn't really know what to think. I mean, it was a tense moment nonetheless. Just thinking, I mean, watching her go that far where they took her to the gallows, put the rope around her neck, and the hood over her face, and you just think she was a goner. So I mean, it gets up to that point where she drops, and she's dead. And then when they pull the hood off, it's Phyllis. That was that was pretty incredible.
Yeah, I gotta say, this to me is one of the most, like, frightening moments for me, because we both love Victoria Winters to death, and it's just
Yeah.
like they're about to stretch Victoria Winters' neck.
Yeah.
It ain't right.
No, it's
But
not.
because she's not a witch, she tried to do everything the right way, and play by the rules, and this is what it got her. And then I love the effect they do. They do a great job. You know what I mean? What I love how I love her. I love Alexander's performance during the trial.
Mhm.
Really well done. What did you think of Peter Bradford, the character?
Um, I liked him, and I liked that he took an interest in Victoria,
Yeah.
and in her case, and I thought he did a semi decent job defending her, but not so great either. I don't think he gave her great advice.
Yeah. Well, you see, who she really needed to come defend her ass was Solomon Kane.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And that's it. But I do think that because he's an amateur attorney, and he
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
they're not Brendan. Look, they're not Brendan and Perry Mason. Matt
Right.
ain't walking through the door. Though, though she could have used those attorneys,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
you know. But this is about getting Victoria back to her time, and really they got to do a little razzle dazzle. But you could tell that when she got the discount attorney I call Peter Bradford,
Right.
she
Right.
she was in trouble.
Yeah. The pro bono guy. Yeah.
She didn't get the first best. She didn't get the second best. She didn't get the third best. She didn't get the fourth. Hell, she didn't even get the fifth. She got to like the eighth down.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
But I think it's an interesting character. I more prefer for the actor. I more prefer when he played a heel.
Hmm.
You know, he played some good heels.
Hmm.
But Peter Bradford's a good character.
Hmm.
It just when they got into the time travel with him, I wish they would have. I wish they would have said right away instead of playing the whole Jeff Clark game. You know what I mean? Like I get it what they're doing. It made sense
Hmm.
because I could see somebody's memory being lost. Maybe when he came out, he wasn't as lucky to land in the drawing room. Maybe he landed on a rock and he hit his head.
Right.
You know, I could see that. But again, I more love Dr. Lang and Jeff Clark's
Oh,
interaction. You know,
oh,
that
yeah,
was they
absolutely.
they don't get enough credit as a chemistry together.
Mhm.
Um, but for 1795, it's just for those who haven't watched it, what are you waiting for?
Yeah,
Is what I'll say. It's a hell of a story, and
yeah.
just the acting, the writing, everything's on par, and then some. What was your favorite moment?
My favorite moment. Um, I would have to say that it's when Angelique lures Josette to Widow's Hill. It
Yeah,
it's like the Darth Vader moment in the prequels. We all know it's coming,
yeah,
but to see it happen and to just you think no, it's not going to happen, and you see Josette, go over Widow's Hill, and she's dead.
yeah,
And yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, it's shocking. And I love the moment when Angelique shows Josette what she's going to become if she stays with Barnabas.
yeah,
That was great makeup on Catherine Lee Scott to make her look like a vampire, by the
yeah,
way. But I would say that's probably my favorite moment of the 1795 story to see, um, to see that happen because you knew it was coming, and you keep hoping that there's a way that they can stop it. Maybe Victoria can stop it, but it can't be changed.
yeah. I think we're gonna get into the duel before we leave too, but I think just the fact that the Collins family history book and the recorded death of Josette, and you hear it, and it's just like, man, can Victoria change any of this?
Yeah,
And when she stand on the hill, I knew right then. I'm like, it's over. She's going over. And when she does, and then you see, I love the makeup they use for the battered eye and the face. It's everything that should happen to you when you fall from that high, and especially hit rocks below.
yeah,
And it's like, my God, like, what did Angelique do? Like, this
yeah,
is just wrong. And really, it brings you it brings you back to that cold hard reality of the person who did this was evil.
yeah.
You know, there's no good in somebody who's doing all this.
No, and the fact that when Josette, who was supposed to be a close friend to Angelique, when she goes over the cliff, you hear Angelique laughing like crazy
Yeah,
and enjoying every bit of it. That she has punished Barnabas this way. That he's already a vampire, and now they can never be together again. You
yeah,
know, it's impossible. And you hear her laughing like crazy and just enjoying it. And I mean, it's just absolutely heartless and cruel, but it's such a good moment. But it just like leaves your heart shattered in pieces.
yeah. I'll get to my favorite moment, and we're going to touch upon it, is the duel between Jeremiah and Barnabas. And really the build, I love the build up to, because long before I recognized Barnabas couldn't shoot, Angelique knew it right away.
Yeah.
Like, here, you need to wear this.
Hmm.
You need to wear this. But
Right.
like a protective medallion, but and he does, but it's still she knows that he can't shoot worth shit, and the duel happens, and he shoots Jeremiah and ends up killing him. And I love the fact that this just causes a nice rift between Josette and Barnabas. It's really greatly done by Jonathan and Catherine, and even the build up to the duel with Anthony George as Burke or not as Burke, but as Jeremiah, and Jonathan as Barnabas is really well done. The words between each other. It's really one of the. He's really Jeremiah is really the first casualty of all this.
Yeah.
And it's really his death almost gets lost in all of it because of what happens afterwards.
Right.
Yeah. What did you think?
And yeah, I agree. And from a horror standpoint, there's a high body count in the 1795 storyline.
Yes.
There's very high body count, but it's not like there for body count's sake. Each death means something and really rips a piece away from you with each death that happens.
Yeah, Mark's right. The body count in this is way up. It's like every time you turn around, there's somebody dying, and it's like each time it's like, oh shit, who's next?
Yeah. There's impact with each one. It wasn't just like someone that, like take a generic slasher movie where they make the characters as unlikable as possible, and you want the killer to kill them. It's not like that with this. Each death, really means something. And there's a lot in this storyline, so it really it's like a schoolyard bully. It's going to take you and shake you and hit you where it hurts, all throughout this storyline. But it's so good.
It is. I'll say this too, that everything that happens with the high body count, it's so each death that happens, and I agree with you, it's so each death matters.
Yeah.
It's somebody of importance to Barnabas and even Victoria, really.
Yeah.
And therefore it's an importance to you because there's things going on that no one can control but Angelique. Mm-hmm. And it makes it all that more scary. It's just crazy.
Yes, it is.
Joshua alters the history book and makes sure nobody knows the truth.
Right.
I mean, it's just really. What are your closing thoughts on this?
I think that this is. There's a lot that can be written about the 1795 storyline from each character's point of view, and you see how every main character really experiences this. And I really think that everybody needs to watch this storyline. I know a lot of people say that they like 1897, which I've not seen all of it the best, but there's really something special in these episodes. It's really an emotional ride, and it's a very addictive story. Once you start, it's hard to stop. There's never a slow down moment or a dull moment in this storyline.
No, there's not. And really, too, it's the language of the characters too. I think that's something. The writing and acting are just so like there.
Yeah.
And really, to be fair, if you want to know why Mr. Best wanted Barnabas in 1897, go look at 1795 and that body count. Because, before Barnabas got to 1897, business was slow for death. And then when Barnabas showed up, Mr. Best was like, yeah. And then he had to write Barnabas a Christmas card.
Yep. Exactly.
Like Mr. Best wasn't complaining how 1795 went because it was going good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. He was busy. That was like his Christmas, with Santa Claus. So yeah, that was his Christmas season.
Yeah, it was like God's like, hey, are you busy? Yes, yes. Do you see what this man's doing down here? I'm very busy.
Yes.
I'm
Very
rolling in bodies, son. You got to let me go.
right.
Mr. Best in Haddonfield. Yep, Michael. Good job, buddy. Good
Yep.
job.
Yep. That's my boy.
He'd have the lawn chair in the middle of the goddamn street.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
shit. Oh my god. Is there anything you want to add, man?
I can't think of anything. I think we pretty well covered a lot of it. So
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
we
Thank you
did.
so much for having me.
Mark, man, it is always a pleasure to bring you on, man.
Same here.
I have a blast when I bring. It's fun, man. But
Yes, it is.
for my buddy Mark Gillman, I'm Jules Sains. Go check Mark out on Twitter at @I_Barnabas. Go give him a follow. We'll see you guys. You guys have a great night. Mark, man, you have a great night.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.